So, product manager, you've got the resume, you worked hard, you've shipped products, led teams, improved metrics, yet your inbox is empty. No callbacks, no interviews, no traction. Listen carefully. You don't have a resume problem, you have a positioning problem. And fixing this one thing, it could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to you, even millions of dollars to you over the context of your career. Let's figure out how it works. Look, you've done everything by the book. Studied hard, built product chops, gained solid experience. You worked cross-functionally, led launches, improved KPIs. You've reworked your resume 5 times, but despite that, you're still not getting to traction. So you start to wonder, is something wrong with me? No, but there's something wrong on how you're showing up in the market. I'm Shobit Chok, founder of Intentional Product Manager, where we've helped over 1,000 product managers land dream role at companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, Coinbase, Stripe, many with 30 to 50% salary increases. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 7 keys that can flip your job search from crickets to callback. And make sure you pay close attention to point 4. It's the one that 99% of product managers completely overlook. It's subtle, but when you get it, it changes the way you talk about your experience forever. Okay, part 1, the resume myth and the ATS illusion. Let's bust one of the biggest myths in job search today. The myth is, if I just keyword optimize my resume and beat the application tracking system or the ATS, I'll get more interviews. Sound familiar? You start Googling job descriptions, you highlight keywords, you cram them into bullet points, you obsess over whether you use drive or led. You start thinking like a robot because you think the resume needs to pass a robot. I get it. Everyone talks about the ATS like it's a boss battle you need to beat. But here's the truth. Top product managers don't optimize for algorithms. They optimize for humans. The ATS or the application tracking system may be the gate, but the hiring manager is the destination. And what captures their attention is not a word match game. It's a narrative that resonates. Let me give you an example. Product manager 1 led sprint planning sessions, collaborated with engineering, treated PRT. Product manager number 2 brought a flailing project back on track by redesigning our roadmap process, resulting in a 3x delivery speed within 90 days. Which one tells the story? Which one makes you say, this person knows how to lead? See, product manager number 1 is playing the keyword game. Product manager number 2 is playing the influence game. And here's what most people don't know. The majority of interviews aren't landed through the job portals anyway. They come from referrals, recruiter outreach, content visibility. In those moments, the application tracking system doesn't matter. Those keywords don't matter. What matters is your story. That's why we say this. Top product managers don't write resumes. They write stories that sell. They don't just talk about what they did. They talk about how they think, how they solve, how they lead. That's what gets attention. So yes, if you're applying through job boards, include the keyword. Make it scannable, but don't stop there. Because if you're relying on keywords alone to land your next role, you're stuck playing a game that's rigged against you. Your resume is not a checklist, it's a pitch. And the ones who win, they're not the ones who check the most boxes. They're ones that create the most conviction. Part 2, what they're really looking for. Let's get real for a second. You've probably spent hours wondering what hiring managers actually want. You've guessed, you've second guessed, maybe you've even rewritten your resume trying to please some imaginary recruiter or hiring manager. But here's the thing, hiring managers aren't looking for the most experienced person. They're looking for the person who feels like the lowest risk, highest confidence bet. And that distinction changes everything. The real questions hiring managers are asking, when they look at your profile, read your resume, or hear your pitch in an interview, they're silently asking, can this person solve the urgent problems on my plate right now? Just like my cat, who's thinking, who's the person who's going to give me a snack right now? Do I trust them with smart trade-offs without babysitting them? Will they raise the bar for my team, or will they drain my energy? Listen, they're not reading your resume like a checklist. They're reading it like a risk calculator. Do they understand product management, product lifecycle? Good, that's table stakes. But do they know how to drive clarity in messy situations? Better. Even better, have they led through ambiguity, solved business critical problems, and influenced without authority? Now we are talking. You're not competing on experience, you're competing on certainty. That is what most product managers miss. You're not competing to be the most impressive. You're competing to be the most trusted. Think about it. When you're hiring a contractor to fix a leaking pipe, you don't go with the one who's been in the business the longest. You go with the one who says, I fixed this exact issue for 3 clients in the last month. I can knock it out in 2 hours. Here's what causes it, and here's how I'll prevent it from happening again. That's the guy you trust, that's the guy you hire. Apply that to your career. Hiring managers are no different. They're not looking for buzzwords. They're not looking for some sort of weird pattern that you managed to beat the bot. They're looking for pattern recognition. Have you solved this before? Do you understand the nuance? Can I put you in front of stakeholders and not worry? And when your resume and pitch answer those questions before they even ask, you go from applicant to obvious solution. Now, why this matters more than ever right now? Right now in this market with layoffs, budget scrutiny, high expectations, managers are terrified of making the wrong hire. They're not looking for a safe resume. They're looking for certainty. Certainty that you'll ramp fast. Certainty that you'll handle ambiguity. Certainty that you won't burn out or back down. And that kind of certainty doesn't come from a keyword optimized resume. It comes from a narrative that says, I'll solve this exact problem. Let me show you how. Part 3, the angle of mastery. You're going to want to pay close attention to this one because this is what many product managers get wrong. They pitch themselves based on what they've done. Great product managers pitch themselves based on the problems they've solved consistently. That's your angle of mastery. It's your intersection of your greatest impact, the type of problems you love solving, and what the market values. Example, I help mid-stage SaaS companies fix retention and onboarding flows. I've done it 3 times. Here's how. That's not a resume, that's a solution statement. It builds confidence and urgency. Part number 4, invisible value. Now, this next part, you're going to actually want to really lean in for this because this is the reason 95% of product managers, even experienced talented ones, don't get traction. Here it is. The most valuable parts of your career, they are invisible. You've done things that were transformative. You've helped your team ship a critical feature. You've resolved a toxic dynamic between engineering and design. You uncovered a game-changing insight in a customer interview that shifted the roadmap. But here's the problem. You've normalized it. You've minimized it. You filed it under just part of the job. You think that wasn't a big deal. That's not worth mentioning. Everyone does that. No, they don't. And even if they do, it's how you did it that matters. Let me tell you a story. I once coached a product manager named, let's call the name Tara. Brilliant, sharp, mid-level, aiming for a lead role. In our first session, I asked her to walk me through her proudest moment. And then she said, well, nothing that special, but we did reduce churn by 28% by improving the onboarding funnel. I stopped her right there. Wait, you led a retention win that size and that's just normal to you? And look, Tara had done what many of us downplay her impact. Because she lived it day by day, she couldn't see the entire transformation she led, even though she had the numbers right there. And she thought everything she did was what everything most product managers do. And hiring managers sure as hell weren't seeing that transformation either. Here's what I told her, and I'll tell you the same. Your value isn't in the tools you use. It's in the problems you solved, the friction you removed, and the momentum that you created. But you've been trained to skip over that part. You've been conditioned to talk about tasks, not about transformation. So how do you fix it? And by the way, fixing it is one of the most important things you'll do. You get outside your own head. You're too close to your career to see it clearly. That's why coaching and feedback loops are critical. Start capturing your wins weekly. Write them down, even if they feel small. You start to see the patterns of excellence. Ask yourself the question that any product manager should ask if they're looking to transform their career. What happened because I was there? What would have not happened had I not been there? Here's the shift. You're not here to tell people what you did. You're here to show them what changed because you did it. And when you start speaking from that place, that's when your value becomes visible. That's when your story becomes undeniable. Part number 5, story tells, facts get scanned. Let's be honest, facts are boring. Hiring managers don't remember bullet points, they remember stories. So while most job seekers are stuffing keywords into templated resumes and copying the same language from a dozen blog posts, top product managers, they lead with a signature narrative. Let me explain what that is. Your signature narrative is a clear, compelling story of who you are as a leader. It weaves together your skills, experiences, and impact into a through line that makes sense and makes people say, that's what we need. And most important, importantly, it tells the hiring manager what you do, why you do that, the consistent pattern of problems you solve, what you're known for and how you work, and why you're ready for the next level now. Example, we had a client, let's call her Ayesha. She had worked across 3 industries: fintech, B2B SaaS, consumer apps. Her resume was a patchwork of good work, but nothing stood out. There doesn't seem to be a pattern. But when we worked with her, we uncovered that across every role, she kept gravitating towards one theme. Really figuring out the big step change that needed to happen and fight for and lead that 0 to 1 initiative. Align everyone that got that product launch going and ultimately helped the company succeed. We crafted her signature narrative around that. Suddenly, she wasn't a product manager with 7 years of experience. She was a specialist in 0 to 1 product, in leading with ambiguity, and in volunteering for things that other people just didn't want to because of political risk, uncertainty, ambiguity. Within weeks, she had multiple interviews and eventually landed a lead product manager role at a Series C startup building a user analytics platform. What's important is what this proves. Your power isn't in the variety of things you've done. Your power is in the pattern behind it all. And your signature narrative is what brings the pattern to life. Now you might be thinking, but I've done so many different things. How do I find one story? And that's where most people get stuck. Because they confuse breadth with noise. But what they need is a synthesis. And synthesis is a skill. It takes stepping back, reflecting, seeing your career like a product. What's the actual customer pain? What's the unique value proposition? What's the roadmap for your career? You already know how to do this for features, for users, for products. Now it's time to do it for yourself. And when you do, well, you stop sounding like a job seeker. You start sounding like a strategic partner. Your resume, your LinkedIn, your interviews all become aligned around a single memorable identity. And that identity creates authority. And authority gets interviews. Authority gets offers. Authority gets you paid. Now let's talk about the next thing, the bad advice that's keeping you stuck. Let's talk about the bad advice. The kind that sounds reasonable, the kind that even your smartest friends repeat. But that's the reason that you're stuck. Bad advice number 1, just apply to more jobs. Quantity over quality, right? It's a numbers game. Wrong. If you're submitting 30 plus applications a week but can't tell me your signature narrative in 1 sentence, then you're scaling ineffectiveness. You're just burning out faster. Look, the best roles don't go to the person who applies to the most jobs. They go to the person who knows how to create resonance and becomes the obvious choice. Bad advice number 2, get more qualified. Add more certifications. I see this one all the time. Someone gets rejected and their first instinct is to buy another $2,000 machine learning, AI, agents, UX, agile certification. Look, learning is great, but if you're doing it to compensate for a lack of clarity, not a lack of skill, you're taking in the wrong direction. Most of our clients land roll our top companies without adding a single certification because their problem wasn't their knowledge. It was they positioned what they already knew. And bad advice number 3, I've said this before, it's all about the keyword, but it's worth repeating. Keyword stuffing doesn't build conviction, and conviction builds trust, and trust is what lands you those roles. Bad advice number 4, just be yourself in interviews. This one's tricky because it's half true. Yes, be authentic, but also be intentional. If you go into an interview with no narrative, no positioning, no preparation, you're not being yourself. You're being forgettable. The highest performing candidates engineer how they come across. They know how to flex based on who's interviewing with them. They don't wing it. They train like it's a sport because it is. And they use the spotlight effect. You don't have to talk about everything related to your career. You put spotlight on the areas that really matter. Now, let's flip the script. The people landing high impact product management roles aren't guessing. They're not applying to 100 jobs. They're being approached. They're not chasing credentials. They're telling better stories. They're not praying someone takes a chance on them. They're walking into interviews already being seen as a solution. And I want that for you. But to get there, you have to stop listening to advice that makes you feel productive but keeps you stuck. You need a strategy that's built for where you want to go, not just where you've been. And this is part 7. This is your move. You've seen the truth. It's not your resume. It's not the keywords. It's not the application tracking system. It's not that you're not good enough. The real reason you're stuck, no one ever taught you how to tell your story, how to claim your value, and how to own your seat at the table. But now you know. You can keep doing what you've been doing, applying to roles you're not excited about, getting ghosted, shrinking your dreams just to feel in control, or you can step forward. You can learn to position yourself like a leader. Speak about your work with clarity, conviction. Show up as the answer to someone's problem, not just another hopeful resume in the stack. The product managers we've helped, they weren't special. They were just smart, experienced, and struggling to get to the next level, just like you. The difference? They stopped guessing. They stopped playing the volume game. They decided to become undeniable. If you're ready to land a role that excites you, that pays you what you're worth, that aligns with your values, your skills, your future, and that helps you achieve your potential, then apply to work with us. We'll help you build your signature narrative, clarify your unique market edge, master your interview, negotiate with confidence, and finally land the offer that matches who you are and who you want to be. Your next job isn't about a paycheck. It's a pivot point. Let's make sure it's the one that changes everything. The link to book Call with us is in the description. I will see you in the inside. Estimate, let's go. That's the one you hire. Oh, gotta redo that cat butt. Act issue for 3 months. I fixed this exact